Good evening or morning, whenever you may be watching this. So, we got a new project. My family is getting a little bigger, and a Ford Fiesta was probably not on the cards. It's manual, it's small, the wife can't drive it, and it doesn't fit a car seat. So, I have been on the hunt for a new project, and by project I mean daily. And I knew I needed something a little bigger. I didn't want something that was going to make me hate myself, and I needed something that the wife could drive. And so after looking around, I decided to pull the trigger on something I had been wanting to do for a long time. So for those who don't know, Honda, before they moved on to the L series motors, and not accounting anything obscure, they hadn't really done turbocharging. Honda never needed to. The NA motors made plenty of power. Sometime around the early 2000s, they decided that they were going to experiment with turbocharging, and they, like most manufacturers do, put out a test engine, put it in the market, see how it did, and use that as a jumping off platform. Now what's cool about that is the only real four-cylinder they were making at the time was the K series. And it already makes a bunch of power, but that was the engine they had to use as a platform. So they took a K-Series engine, they bumped the displacement from 2 liters to 2.3, or from 2.4 to 2.3, depending how you look at it. They lowered the compression down to 8.8 to 1, so super low, and they added a turbocharger. What's cool is they added a VGT turbo. And
basically, a VGT turbo adjusts the size of the turbine housing, giving the turbo the ability to spool more and then have a higher top end. It's a pretty old technology, but you don't really see it on almost any other cars.
And more specifically, Acura made a boosted K-Series engine for one platform, for one generation, and then moved on to the L motors and the K20C in the Type R. So the engine they came out with was the K23. It was in the Acura RDX only, and it was never really a smashing success. Part of the reason you never saw it go into anything was because the engine doesn't bolt to normal K-Series transmissions, so it makes it almost completely useless. Guys have done, regular bottom ends with K-Series head to get the turbo. There's a bunch of Frankensteins, but it doesn't really fit. And so the platform never took off. Fast forward, a couple years, people get into the aftermarket. Honda releases Flash Pro for it, and people start playing with it a little bit. There's a video I've been watching for years now. Guy claiming to have the fastest Acura RDX in the world. The time he set was a 13.2, or at least that's the fastest one I could find. He was on a stock cylinder head and turbo, but with a bunch of mods. I want to break that record. I'm going to break that record, and I don't think it's going to be super difficult either. The move here is pretty straightforward. I'm going to take it, get it in perfect running order, and then I'm going to swap the cylinder head with either an RSX or a TSX head. That'll give me access to a bigger turbocharger, and with the Honda, I should be able to make close to 400 horsepower or more stock bottom end. If I have to mess with the bottom end, so be it, but that's my goal. So here it is. This is my 2007 Acura RDX. It's got 113,000 miles. Pretty comfortable daily. I've been driving it pretty much every day. Gotten to feel out what it needs, what I can live with, stuff like that. I'm going to do this in about 3 stages. Stage 1 is to prep the vehicle for normal daily use. That includes just getting it clean, servicing everything, checking all the fluids, doing the basic maintenance, make sure the car is healthy. Once I know that, then I can move on to some more required adjustments. For instance, so those are not slicks, these tires. So I have a tire and suspension option that I'm going to be using. Once I've got the tires and the suspension done, I can then move on to the engine. And yeah, should be pretty straightforward. So again, it's going to be get the car cleaned and prepped, check the fluids. Once the fluids and the car is clean, do the tires, wheels, and suspension. Once that's done, then we move on to the engine and we try to make some power. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get started on it and take you guys along. So we're under the RDX. We're going to start with the rear diff. So funny thing, that's actually how they come. I'm sure it looks like something's missing, but it's not. They make it super easy. Nice accessible holes right through the subframe. Thank you, Honda and Japan. And for the rear diff, they suggest using DPS fluid. I went with Ineos DPS. I'm gonna go ahead and pull the bottom plug, let it drain, reinstall the bottom plug, pull the top one, and use it for the level. Cool. Oh my God. That is perfect. So if you're buying a car and you want to know what kind of condition it's been treated since it's been, you know, serviced, because I bought this at 113, a surefire way is to check the oil of anything, diffs, trans, engine, doesn't matter. If the oil comes out looking like this, chances are your car's been taken care of, because that is insane. Nobody keeps up on their fluid changes. Insane. Loving it. Pretty good. So we got the fluids done. Now that the fluids are done, I needed to replace the hatch struts, which I did, so that I can open the hatch, because we're gonna deep clean this thing. But the fun thing about hatch struts is that when you replace them when they're fresh, brand new, especially if they're aftermarket, the closing force can be a little much. So it's a little tough to get it to shut, but it works, so that's good. So on to the next one. So the very important step of getting everything cleaned out. I'm just deep cleaning this thing as much as I can. Shampooing the carpets, vacuuming it, spraying out all the channels that have clearly never been cleaned. Yeah, just, you know, get it as clean as humanly possible, because it is gross. All right, so we made some headway. We got the car cleaned because it was pretty rough. Took all the components out, pressure washed them, got that done. Got an air freshener in there. I also got the diff, PTO, and the trans flushed out, and we got the hatch struts replaced. So that's about it for this one. The next step is going to be wheels and tires. You know, it's not something I normally do early on in the build, but these bad boys are worked. So I just didn't feel like throwing on fresh rubber on these wheels. I'm not a huge fan of the way they look, so I found a set of wheels online that I got, and I'll go over that in the next one, because I'm not just doing wheels and tires, I'm doing wheels, tires, suspension, the whole shebang. We're gonna get it knocked out, and maybe even brakes. Well, that'll do it for this one, and until next time.